Hello, everyone, and welcome to mymizu mastermind. And today we'll be mainly talking about productivity and productivity tools. So before we start, just quick disclaimer: I'm not a spokesperson for productivity. But since I do feel like I've spent a little bit of time trying to figure out like what's the best way to optimize the way I work, or how to achieve goals, things like that very efficiently. So I'll just be sharing those what I've realized over over a period of time. And so just feel free to be open minded. You don't have to take this as like what you have to follow, but it could lead to some ideas or something of your own that you can implement at some point of time. So this is like meant for inspiration. Um, for your own productivity philosophy, and that's basically why I bolded it out, was because just to make it a little interesting and more um like open-minded, that's the first part of this session that I'll be talking about, which is like productivity philosophy, which I don't know, like, what do you guys think it means? Have you ever thought about, like, what's your thought process behind being productive? No? Okay, then that's good. Then that means that this might be actually helpful for you guys. So yeah, okay. And at any point of time, if you have any questions or wanna interrupt, like, feel free to do that. So yeah, so when I wanted to think, okay, what is productivity? So I remember the first time I heard it in a more technical sense was when I was studying economics. And so very simply put, it's the ratio between output and input, right? So higher productivity means lesser the input, more output. So very simply put, you want to do less and achieve more, right? So that's what productivity means. Um, the second thing that we want to talk about is, do you know what is flow state? So flow state, basically it means that you are in a zone where you're doing something where you're completely immersed in a very like energized focus, full involvement and enjoyment of the process of the activity. So there's like the technical definition, but basically flow state means that when you're doing something and you don't even realize, like, you're enjoying it so much that you don't even realize it's causing you any effort to do that kind of thing. And it's very possible that all of you at some point of time have experienced this flow state. It can be in many different oops yeah so when you're doing sports or fitness related things, when you're doing music, when you're writing or reading. So sometimes you even forget, you forget about the time, or you forget what how much effort you're putting in just because you enjoy it so much. And it's also possible maybe while working you've also achieved that flow state simply because hopefully you're doing something you enjoy, or it's something that you're so experienced in that it seems like you could close your eyes and do this thing and it would still happen, right? So that's flow state. And then the next thing is, wow, it's taking a lot of time to switch the, yeah, okay. So next thing is deep work. So deep work is basically when without any distraction you can do any like task which requires some complicated actions, or like some type of thing which requires effort. But because you are in that kind of state, you can really do it without in a much lesser time without much efforts. So like it could be, for example, like maybe you're in university and you like finished your college essay in one night, or like one day you felt really productive and you replied to all your emails in the morning, or you had to like plan some kind of event, and you were like, you really felt like you were in a good, like you have that feeling of productivity that you'll really do some great stuff today. So yeah, so basically when I connect all these concepts, I think the easiest way to be productive is when you can achieve your flow state as quickly as possible, so that you can perform deep work during that time when you want to perform that kind of work, right? So again, complicated terminology, but basically means that you want to enjoy what you're doing to the point where you don't realize how quickly you're able to do difficult things in a smaller time frame. Okay, so how to be effectively productive? So there's two main points to that. One is that if you can decide what are your main priorities at the moment. so that you can remove everything else that's not, right? And if you can do that, then you can really focus on that one thing. And when you do focus on that one thing, then you will achieve that flow state or that deep work. So we can achieve this by being a good, like like being good at prioritization, and figuring out immediately what's the most important thing for you to do at this moment. And the second is, when you decide what is most important to you, how can you make sure that it's not distracting to actually do it, and like remove all the other stuff that might interfere with that main thing that you want to do. So those two things, to make it easier, we can do this by automation, or we could also do this by leveraging technology and workflows, and that's something I'll be discussing in the second half of this as well. So for the first point, so now comes the productivity philosophy. This kind of like just what I've sort of realized over the past like 1 or 2 years as to how I'm able to do most of the things that I really want to do in the correct time frame. So the first one is goal planning. So I know all of us have had some experience with goal planning. So how can you do this in terms of productivity? So for example, if you have any big tasks, right, it's very important to break them down into short-term achievable goals. So when, like, especially when things seem doable, they will be done. So that's important, because if you set really high goals for yourself, which seem very unachievable in this like short term, then you will kind of procrastinate, or it will not be something that you will be motivated to achieve. Second is like, once you have your short term goals, you should review them on a regular basis, because things change. And because of that, it might be like you might not want to do that anymore, or might want to increase the intensity of that long term goal, something like that. So keep reviewing them. Be flexible yet accountable. So like, make sure that if you have set some goals for yourself, like you should complete at least to some level. If you don't, then obviously you don't have to feel like really bad about it, but um, if you do set some goals, like, you should try to achieve them as much as possible. And the best way to do this is have an accountability partner, especially if that other person also wants to complete their goals in time, so you both can like review it with each other after every like end of the cycle. And reprioritize. So it doesn't mean that if today what you think is most important, by next month it will still be. So reprioritize every month, and try to enforce habits. And to give an example of this, for example, if you had like a long term goal of losing 10 kgs in 6 months, right? Instead of thinking, okay, now I have to lose 10 kgs, it's important to break it down into like smaller goals. So, like, one goal would be you have to do something about your fitness. So, you have to exercise. One goal will be you have to do something about your eating. Again, it doesn't mean that immediately you'd start going to the gym every day, or you'll cut down all the food possible, because that will just be very temporary. What you have to do is you have to build those habits. And that's how you do it is by like, for example, there's just like a draft, but like week 1 to like for the first 2 weeks, just make sure you go to gym twice a week so you get comfortable, and eat maybe two healthy meals every day on a weekday. Then for the next 2 weeks, you can increase the, like, once you review okay how it felt, you can increase the gym intensity by 1, and then you can increase the healthy meals by 6, and then as you go further, then you can increase it more. And then, like, I can assure you, because I've actually done this, um you will lose 10 kgs by the end of 6 months, or even earlier. So yeah, if I should have put a photo of me, like me earlier, but yeah, I used to be kind of really fat, and then over a period of, I think, 1 year, I lost almost 25 kgs by following like smaller goals. So how I used to look earlier,
누구?
기다리?
can you recognize?
What?
That's you on the left?
Yeah.
No way!
What the hell? Smart, すごい.
Wait,
Yeah,
how
and
many
I
years
think,
ago?
sorry,
When?
this is like maybe 3 years ago, but I don't have a lot of pictures from that time. But basically, after I graduated, um, was when I started like getting back, like, or like started realizing, okay, I need to get my shit together. So yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, so I would say within 1 year, and Japan definitely helped because like Japan's a very active country to be in. But yeah, just generally, I think within 1 year I lost 25 kgs, which is even seems weird to think, but like it kind of happened. So, but yeah, so if you want to see my current picture, maybe you can see me on Saturday and then come. Or like you can see my Instagram, which I post quite often now because I don't mind posting. But yeah, basically, again, coming back to the thing, so you can apply these to everything basically. And for example, since we discussed this maybe on a previous raindrop, so if you wanted 1000 plus refill partners in 6 months, and that becomes your priority, right? So how would you can't expect tomorrow to gain 1000 refill partners, and you'll feel overwhelmed if you suddenly feel you have to message 1000 people tomorrow. But what you can do is, since you have like a 6 month or 3 month period, you can use each week to do like a smaller, like break it down into smaller tasks. So for example, week 1 and 2, just focus on the strategy and do research, prepare maybe a list of potential things you want to do, right? So that's simpler to do. There's no even thousand, the word thousand in your mind right now. You're just thinking about, okay, what's the best way I can do this. Then the next 2 weeks, we still haven't even reached out to anyone yet. Next would be like you create the workflow, create the templates. So for 2 weeks, this seems doable, right? And then test it. So like in this test, you could think about, okay, if I want to do it like 10 partners, do you think that's possible? Then basically once month 2 starts, by this time everything's prepared and ready. So then you can have like a weekly goal of maybe recruiting 10 small scale and like contact 5 large scale every month. Again, I think this seems pretty doable if you break it down. And then by end of the month, like I mentioned, review it and see whether what worked, what didn't, and which parts you're having trouble in, and those you can automate, right? And then you reprioritize. Whether it's still important for you to reach this 1000 refill partner goal. Maybe at this point you just want to do 500. So that changes like the way you do things. Maybe the month after you reduce it and you focus your time on other things. But for example, if you want to still catch this goal, then month 3 you like increase it to 25 and 10. So like I think this incremental thing is really important. And um, especially if it's like some type of goals which doesn't have an end date, it's really interesting to see how slowly you'll reach that. So it's kind of similar to habit creation. So that's one philosophy. And the second one is butterfly effect. So this is kind of more like how to say, like more fluffy kind of thing, but that's what philosophy is. So I personally think like a lot of things don't get done because they never get started. And sometimes you just need to take the first step and let the universe move it along, right? So because not everything is in your control, so you can't there's no point stressing about future problems and um not doing it at all. So, and the second point is, if you feel like your time is worth more than the effort money takes, then outsource it. Like there's other people who are more better at it than you, who will do it for maybe a price you can afford. So just for example, um, like if I am writing a book or something and I'm not a good editor, so instead of me trying to learn how to be a good editor and then trying to edit my own book, it's better to use that time for something else and maybe ask like a professional editor to do it for me. And this is what I'm thinking about doing with my music, because I can produce music but I cannot mix it. So it's the same thing as you can write the book but you can't edit it. Mixing is a completely different skill in its own, and I don't want to spend time doing it because I want to focus more on the creative aspect. So I will probably ask someone on Fiverr to mix it for me while I focus more on the making the song, or like talking to artists and things like that. So this is really important, especially once you do start earning money. Like it's important to start valuing your time more. Yeah. And some examples again is like, again, I'll take the weight loss example. So it's like, if you want to lose weight, don't stress about losing the weight. but instead focus on finding your nearest gym. That's something you can do at this point of time, right? Once you do that, then you can think about what you want to do after. Like, but like a lot of people, if they think about losing weight, they'll suddenly start getting overwhelmed by either YouTube videos or workout plans or these kind of things. But like that comes after. The first thing is you have to actually figure out um, what's the first step to that, right? And I think the one of the best examples I can give is that about like how I joined mymizu. So like I was for a long time, really wanted to work on some kind of like large scale project, but I was too over, like if I felt very overwhelmed about doing this kind of reaching out to people, then I would have probably never been able to join my music. So in my mind, I just thought, okay, like it's a place I would really be interested to work at. So let me just shoot my shot from my end, and after that, I don't have to worry about it, right? I did all I could. And yeah, that's what I did. So I just sent a message on the website, and I kind of forgot about it. I removed it from my mind until like maybe 2 months later I received email from Robin and Marco, right? So it's kind of so yeah, that's butterfly effect. I did my part to move like a sequence of things along, to which sometimes they may return to you, sometimes they may not, but like at least from your end you did what you could do, right? So that's like the kind of second philosophy about productivity. So if you're feeling very stressed out about doing like a big project, just do the first thing. Like, you know, if you're stressed out about finding jobs, just work on your resume first. Don't think about applying already, and just things like that. So if you're stressed out about reading some book, just read one page first, and like then think about, don't think about reading the whole book in one go. So yeah, so that's just kind of the human philosophy aspect. And now we'll come to technology and automation. So this is what I would, these are kind of like my tips. So use technology to remove the distractions, not create them, right? So make sure, even if you choose some tool, that it does not interfere with your work. Or for example, if you are using like weird on social media, or like we're doing Netflix and stuff, try to figure out a way of like how you can make it productive. So like fit it in certain time frames rather than having like, you know, no, like just a free flow of that. But again, I struggle with that as well, so I cannot, it's just something I can advise. But but yeah, so second is these technology and automation tools, they sometimes have a slight learning curve, but over a period of time, I think the time investment is worth it. So oh wait, is there something in the chat here? I didn't see it earlier.
I'm just promoting your
Oh.
app
Oh yeah.
technology.
Oh, yeah, so maybe I can talk about it later as well. I completely actually forgot about it while I was making this presentation. um yeah, I went so deep into this philosophy and like all this stuff. Yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll remember to plug it later. um yeah, so over a long period of time, the investment is worth it. You know, it's like, it's a very rudimentary example, but I would say um a long time ago, the people who invested their time in learning how to use a calculator, they don't have to do the mathematical long scale equations anymore, right? They don't have to do it on paper. So it's kind of similar, but like earlier, probably calculators were really hard to use, or maybe hard to understand. But the ones who learned it over a long period of time, they were able to maybe grasp computers more quickly, or like do those kind of things. So yeah, second is like, a lot of times you might hesitate paying for these apps, but like my argument to that is, if you can spend 2000 yen for one night like on drinks, you can spend 200 yen per month on some app that could like improve your quality of life. And most of these apps, they have free versions, so you can try it first and then see if needed. And then a lot of times, like you would really like, you feel like that app really affects your quality of life, and it's important to like, you know, pay it back if possible. So like please consider that as well. um Another important tip is multi-platform cloud-based apps. It's a very big mouthful, but it basically means that any app which can sync all your data across your phone, computer, and the web makes it is a good app because it makes it easier to access it from anywhere and then input stuff anywhere else. So that's one thing. And then don't mix and try not to mix and match tools. So like try to have specific use case for the tools that you're using, because if you're using, just for example, if you're using both Google Drive and Dropbox, it's kind of like counterintuitive because you won't be great at any one tool and your data is like scattered across. So make sure that you use a tool for its specific purpose. Even if it has other features, you can just use it for that one purpose, so that all your stuff, all your information regarding that one purpose is in that. And I'll give you more examples later. But yeah, so this is kind of like a small guide on how or why you should use technology. And okay, let's now go on to this. So I created this page in the mymizu Notion, so I'll share it later. But this is basically immediately what I could think of is where you could use tools in your life. So one is obviously note taking and management. And if you open these toggles, you can see like some articles or some notes from me. And I would like this to be like a living and breathing resource. So if anyone finds any interesting articles or tools, like you can just post them here. Maybe someone even 6 months later could stumble upon this page and find some interesting things. So let me actually send this in the chat as well. Yeah. So yeah, I'll not go too much into detail because it might take a long time, but I'll just quickly go through these use cases. So one is note taking and management. So I'm assuming a lot of you already use Notion or some form of note taking app. And I would really recommend using Notion because, as I mentioned, it's on all devices and it's very easy to access it anywhere. And once you sort of figure out how you want to use it, it will become your personal, like how people used to have journals early or like long time ago. Now they can use this as a digital version. Then it's task and memory management. So this is kind of when you want to make to-do lists, tasks, or like plan for your future. So Todoist is one of my favorite apps that I use, and I will show you some example of it as well. But it's kind of like I use this task memory management apps to kind of talk to my future self, because I'm thinking something right now, but I know I'll forget it later. So it's kind of, I know, okay, 1 week later I need to do this. So it's not my problem right now, but like 1 week later, future Tanmay needs to remember this. So that's kind of my, like, it's kind of like me trying to communicate with my future self by using these kind of apps. Email management is also, recently I've realized it's very important because um, every day we are receiving, like, our email address is so public and so easily accessible that you're going to get a lot of random emails. But most importantly, like the stuff you really want, it might get hidden, or like you might feel overwhelmed when you see like such a huge unread count or these kind of things. So I've been using Hey and I really like it. And there's a lot of other great ones as well, so you can check these out. But basically you want to use them because so that they can kind of categorize your email for you, and you have like good customization. Because I think after using these kind of apps, I feel like Gmail really is not such a good alternative. Like you can use Gmail as a place to receive your email, but it's not so good to manage it. So yeah, so definitely check these out. Financial management is also really important. Especially in Japan, haven't seen a lot of really great financial apps, especially if they are also usable in English. But one app that I really like is Money Tree. And the one thing it does is it syncs all your accounts, so that if I have like two bank accounts and one credit card account, it'll kind of sync all of them together and create budget reports or like your user reports for you. And the user experience is nice, and it's in English as well. So, or like you could find one if you're not in living in Japan, you could find one in your country. But I think it's really important because I guess when we're spending money, especially if you're using credit cards or cash, we cannot keep track of it. So it's very important to have it. And if you make investments, again, it's really important to have a good user interface so you can keep track of where the money is going and how it's doing, and maybe even especially for businesses as well. Next is document management. So I think everyone's kind of using Drive. It's become the more global thing. So not much to say here. If you don't use Drive, I don't know how you are surviving. So next is distraction management. I think this is also important. So these apps will like limit your screen time, or they'll give you more information about where is all your time going. And sometimes I don't know if you've already activated it on your phone. Both Android and iOS have it, but you'll be shocked to see how much time you're spending on social media or YouTube or something. And especially when you start valuing your time at some cost, you'll realize like it's also your the value you could have gotten from that time is also lost. So it's important to kind of use these tools to like keep you on track, I think. um the next thing is interaction management. So this is more like how can you like makes like some things interaction based things easier. For example, how to say, like, to do some things maybe on your phone you'll need to tap like 5 different times or do something. But like I would really recommend you try actually giving that command to Siri, because it's really powerful. As Siri, Google Assistant, as well as Amazon Alexa. Oh, mine just rang. But yeah, all of them are really powerful, and a lot of really smart engineers are working to make things easier. So for me, I try to use it as much as possible, especially like if you're not in a public place. But you can really, like, instead of opening the app and then creating a calendar, writing what the event is about, setting the date and the time, you can actually just say it as a natural sentence, and then Siri will do it for you. So try it out and then get used to it, because it will really save a lot of effort, and then like just it'll make you less annoyed at those things. So I've put in some articles here. Another thing is the kind of you can use iPhone shortcuts. So for example, Julie, if you're calling Mariko like 3 times a day, right, on Slack. So you can set a shortcut by which you can just do one click and then it automatically calls her. So Apple has these kind of how to say these kind of functionalities built in. So yeah, if you feel you're doing one kind of action multiple times a day, it's better to automate it. Okay, then app automation. So there's something I haven't gotten into much yet, but I maybe it's the next step for me. So it's like, how can you connect two apps together to create some sort of automation workflow? So an example I can give is like um, my lights. If my lights are like IoT lights, so I want that every time when it's 7 a.m. they just like they just turn on their own. So I can do that based on like using these kind of features, or they can also be used for business. So for example, um, I saw one kind of automation where every time you get a app review, it would like create a Notion ticket with all that information. Or if you get like, if someone fills out your type form, you can automate like a reply to them. Or like there's basically unlimited things you can do when you connect two apps, two different features together. And there's two services doing that really well right now, Zapier and IFTTT. So again, like you could go more deeper into it and see what works, but like this is something I haven't gone into much yet. um but yeah, there's some very interesting ones. Maybe actually let me just show you some of them if you haven't seen. um so like for IFTTT, they have some very random ones as well, but it's like a good example of what it can do. So for example, if you like a video on YouTube, it will add it to your Spotify playlist. So you can imagine how many steps it would take to do it on your own, but like it kind of automates that. Or like, for example, like when you post on Instagram, it will automatically post that as a Twitter picture as well. So you don't need to post those things twice. What else could be? Like, it could be like, every time you sleep, it tracks it in Google Calendar. Apparently, maybe some people like it. Yeah, this one I used to use just for fun, but it's like every time you took an Uber, it would log it in a Google spreadsheet, and you could like see all the Uber rides you took. But like, just as an example, it like you can see you do something, it could be logged into a spreadsheet as well. So like this kind of automation is interesting. Automatically turn your lights on at sunset. So there's one thing I actually do. So it uses a weather app to see when is the sunset going to be in my area, and then automatically turn my lights on. And yeah, when your so this kind of going more into like interesting territory, but when your IoT vacuum cleaner completes the job, it will blink your IoT lights, so this kind of becomes like a very robot thing. Oh wow, this is cute. uh, Actually, this, you can use mymizu app for this. It's a applet that reminds you every 2 hours to drink a glass of water between 8 a.m. So okay, this you don't need to do. Yeah, but yeah, basically you get the gist. So IFTTT is more for personal, and Zapier is more for professional. So in maybe like if you could, I think the mymizu store is on Shopify, so it could be like every time someone buys something from Shopify, you can automate like a bunch of things to happen after that, which you would have had to do manually, right? Like, I don't know if you have a workflow, but like you could use Zapier to do those things. So I would recommend you check it out from a business perspective, definitely. Okay, document creation. So this is something I use a lot. Um, and because I personally don't have a lot of design experience and a design sense, and I don't enjoy doing it either, so when I'm making a presentation, I want to focus on my content rather than figuring out whether the alignment is okay, whether all the fonts are matching, or these kind of things. So I really use Beautiful AI a lot. And it's kind of like like, it's basically you put in the stuff you want to put in, and it will automatically um, create the presentation for you with using its templates. And also my resume, I use a automatic resume creator as well. So again, like, I don't want to worry about like the font sizes or these kind of things. So in Credle, you can basically just input all the information, and it will create your resume for you. So actually, I can show you how that would look. So yeah, this is my resume, and I spent 20 minutes to make it, honestly. Because all I had to do was decide what are the headings, what is the content, and it automatically formatted the whole thing for me. It even included all the links and etc. etc. So like, I can imagine if I tried to make it myself without design experience, it would take me hours. So yeah, so basically that's my other recommendation. Let me pull it back.
Yeah, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, so for presentations, definitely, maybe let me see if I have some previously made presentations as well. Oh yeah, actually, yeah, I can show you the most recent one. So I gave a talk in a school maybe 2 months ago. So and I created this presentation maybe in like 2 hours, or maybe even lesser. But it's kind of like, you can see that all I had to do was put in the content, and it would like format the whole thing on its own. And so like, if I do add slide, so here you can see it has like a bunch of templates, and they're all pre-formatted. So you can quickly just input the content, and it will just like make it for you. And you can do anything. Like, for example, if you wanted to create like a contact us page. So yeah, so automatically they have formatted it. You just have to like fill in and do whatever. Just for example. So I pretty much use this for all of my presentations, and it looks really nice as well. It looks like someone who doesn't know about it will imagine that you put in a lot of effort into it. And yeah, so that's kind of what I would recommend. And obviously, if you want to do some graphic design, you can use Canva. It's a really great tool as well, for especially people who don't have design experience. And finally, privacy management. So this is also something I started doing recently when I started creating so many accounts. And I started realizing I cannot use the same password for all accounts. It's dangerous. So use a password manager. And Bitwarden is actually free, and it's as good as any other one out there, and it's available on all apps, all platforms. Another one actually is the app. If you have all Apple products, the keychain works very well as well, so you can store all your passwords on. So yeah, you should definitely do this, because going on, you'll just be creating more and more accounts, but you'll forget all your passwords for sure. Okay, so this is kind of just a like very quick guide through different types of tools for different things that you may encounter in real life that you could use. So feel free to come back to this and go deeper.